This is a real thing. Real thing.
None of you have the balls to stop this. Stop this.
I've got plenty of time. I have nothing else going on today.
We're in the Wedge neighborhood right now.
Okay, thanks for coming on.
Yeah, thank you for having me, John.
All right. Welcome to another episode of the Wedge Live podcast. I don't have a co-host today. It's just me and Park Board candidate Eric Moran, who's running in District 2, which I gather from your website is North Loop and North Minneapolis.
That's correct, but it's only a small subsection of the North Loop. So basically along the river between Washington and the river.
And how long have you been running for Park Board? You just got in, right?
I think it's been about a month now I made the decision.
Okay. Do you regret it?
I do not.
Okay.
It was kind of a so the whole thing went I saw that Becky Alper had announced that she was running, and I made an offhand comment on Twitter about saying, well, it would be nice if we had somebody that was running in District 2. And Risa, I don't know if it was jokingly said it, but Risa said, you should run.
Mm-hmm.
And then a day later, I got a contact from somebody else saying, hey, do you have any interest in running for the park board? And it was just, there were two separate people talking and having that conversation that really just kind of like made me think about it for a little bit and said, that's actually something that I would enjoy doing.
Are you sure about that, though? Have you ever watched an 8-hour park board meeting? You sure it's something you'd enjoy?
Yeah, I would enjoy it. I think representing and working on behalf of the people is something that I really would very much enjoy, even if it means me being the one that has to suffer through an 8-hour meeting.
But you dodged the question. Have you ever watched one of the 8-hour meetings?
Not the full 8-hour meetings. I've watched bits and pieces of some of the other meetings, but not a full 8-hour one.
Okay, well, you're in for something. And do you have an opponent?
Not currently.
And Cale Severson, who's the current member in District 2, has decided not to run.
That's correct.
Okay. So tell me what you want to do on the park board. Why are you running?
So I've got a lot of the two main platforms I'm running on right now are accessibility and understanding climate change as it relates to the park system. So accessibility is something that's very close to me and really important to me. And as I'm reaching out to individuals now in my district, accessibility is like the top of their list as well. It's actually kind of surprising how many people complain about, or how many people have issues with the way things are not accessible in the park system. Be it hearing about lack of lights in parks, hearing about lights that don't turn on in parks, in the wintertime, hearing about individuals that use mobility devices and are finding trails that are just either paved trails or they're just not able to get around in the park system. That's I've got my mother-in-law is in a mobility device, and having traveled around with her and seeing the struggles that she faces in that, everybody should be able to access our park systems. And so that's one of the things that I find most important, and I want to make sure that everybody has fair and equal access to the parks.
So have you been doing a lot of campaigning and talking to delegates? You're running for the DFL endorsement, right?
That's correct.
And so you weren't on the caucus materials, but you will be one of the candidates listed at the convention for endorsement, right?
Correct. I have not heard that there is going to be another one. The cutoff was on Wednesday night, so I may be the only one for District 2.
It's just you. That's beautiful for you.
Yeah.
And so when you're talking to people, when you're talking to delegates, in addition to the accessibility question, what other concerns do people have about parks, or what do people care about when it comes to parks in District 2?
The big thing, so accessibility, I'm just going to go into that a little bit more. So when I'm really preaching on accessibility, I'm I'm not only talking about like the physical access, but I'm also talking about digital access as well. So I have a background in IT, and specifically in web hosting, and looking at our digital platforms, at the park's digital platforms, and looking at them from the accessibility standpoint, there's a lot to be desired there. So when I've talked to the delegates that I've talked to so far, and talked about updating the park's website to meet needs for screen readers and meet needs for mobile devices, I'm finding other parents that are equally excited about having a park website and registration system that actually works on a mobile device.
So talk about that a little more. Like, does the Minneapolis Park Board's website stand out to you as particularly bad compared to like other government agencies, or?
So it works on a mobile device, but if you're somebody who's using a screen reader or like a assisted reading device, it needs to be optimized quite a bit. There's a lot of jumping around and a lot of moving around to get to even just like the parks list. It's not very straightforward for somebody who needs assistance.
So if I went to minneapolismn.gov, does the city have their website up to par?
It's not great either.
Okay, so it's a common problem.
It's a very common problem. There are defined standards for meeting accessibility needs. That's something that so I work in the public sector as well, and that's something that we push for our clients, to make sure that all of their web content is able to meet those standards.
Right. So I think I interrupted you you're talking to voters. What are they telling you their concerns? Started with accessibility.
Sure. So accessibility is one of the things. The other I'm hearing a lot of is around what the park system is going to bring to North. We're hearing a lot of concerns around North representation that's been missing from the park system. So the park board does play a big hand in helping plan like the Blue Line extension. And so determining one of the big things that I'm looking forward to working on is helping determine the Blue Line, the direction of the Blue Line that goes in. So through North, there's individuals that would be, or the Blue Line, there's two directions that they're looking at. There's like a route through Broadway and a route through Lowry. And so hearing from delegates that obviously want to see the Blue Line come closer to them, but understanding which, needing to meet the needs with the rest of the population to figure out which direction it should go.
Okay, and to talk a little bit more about you, you're a Streets MN board member. I think that's the first thing I learned about you. When somebody said, "Hey, Eric Moran is running," I'm like, "Who is that?" I'm like, "Oh, that Eric Moran."
Sure. So I joined Streets at the beginning of 2020. We met in person twice, and then 2020 happened. So it's been a lot of trying to adapt and understand how do we keep the streets mission going while everything else is going on around us.
And maybe we should say what streets.mn is, and not assume that people know what that is. It's about transportation and land use. I've written for streets.mn. It's a group blog, right?
Yep. We do have, it's about making streets for everybody throughout Minnesota, not focusing on streets as a transportation method for cars.
Okay. Sounds good to me.
So on Streets, I'm a member of the social board, and a member of the technology committee as well. So maintaining the website, I help run the social media accounts. So a lot of times, if there's tweets that people are seeing from Streets, it's either myself or one of the other. There's two other individuals that run that as well.
Okay. And are you doing your own social media on your campaign?
I do a little bit. I do have somebody that's also helping me with that.
Are you having fun running for office?
Actually, yeah, I really like meeting people, and so it's really exciting to start talking to people on the phone, and then I'm starting to get schedules or trying to figure out when we'll work to start planning in-person meetings with individuals to start doing some listening sessions, things like that.
Did you read that story today? Minneapolis has fallen to number 3 best park city in the country. And I think that rating is based on the number of people who live within a 10-minute walk of a park.
Right.
What do we do to improve on that and make sure more people can live near parks?
So one of the things that was covered in that article today, and now that they use for a rating system, excuse me, or they use a new factor for rating is what does the equity look like in parks? And so how many people of color have access to parkland compared to how many white people have access to this parkland? And one of the things that Minneapolis scored lower on, which hurt us, is the number of people of color, like there's the space that they have access to.
Yeah, I think the stat is 58% less, says minority neighborhoods have access to 58% less park space per capita than white neighborhoods in Minneapolis, a larger disparity than the national gap of 44%. In St. Paul, people of color have 30% less park space than their white counterparts.
Right. Yep. And with that, it's looking at things. So, jumping back to how I was talking about the Blue Line extension, as we're going through this process and as we're discovering space that we should be, as the Blue Line construction would happen, let's say it happens along Broadway. It's taking the space that we would be utilizing for that and making that into, expanding the park space in that. Expanding the park space along the that blue line, so making it something of a destination for individuals to go to as they hop on the train. It's looking at things like the Upper Harbor Terminal project as well. That's the park is being involved in that, and figuring out what we can do to make sure that we're building that space as well. I think there's other spaces within North Minneapolis that when you're driving around or biking around and seeing property that's been abandoned for a while, it's understanding, is this something that we need to take and redevelop into housing, or is this something that we could be utilizing for a community space of a park of some kind? I think there's other things as well, like changing some of our potential like park spaces into other use spaces, such as skateboard parks as well. So meeting some different needs within a different within North.
So one hot button issue in South Minneapolis, I don't know if this is a hot button issue in North Minneapolis, but I remember seeing yard signs, I don't know if it was last year or the year before, like Save Minnehaha Parkway.
Mm-hmm.
And it made me wonder what's going on with Minnehaha Parkway. Are they going to abolish Minnehaha Parkway? And they were going to divert car traffic. Maybe you've heard about that.
Mm-hmm.
Off of Minnehaha Parkway. Is that a big issue in North Minneapolis? What we do with the parkways regarding like car access, maybe reserving them for pedestrian and bikes on some days or maybe all days? I don't know. Is that a topic of concern?
It is a topic of some concern. There's and I can't recall the exact street they did it on in North. I want to say it was a block west of Fremont, next to Falwell Park. But they did the same thing where they just closed that street down for just for pedestrian traffic. There aren't as many spaces like Minnehaha Parkway or like the path or the parkway around Bidimakaska that we have in North that are very much like either a loop or it's it'd be like a really desirable walking path. I do think that we should be looking at some of the streets though and the other paths that we could potentially be using for that. So, for instance, we've got Victory Memorial Parkway, where if we have the option to close that down for a certain number of days, I think that would be something that individuals would like quite a bit. I know the feedback from people that we're using the parkways around Minneapolis, we're very excited to be able to actually use more space and not feel crammed in by like the bicycle riders and things like that. So I think there's potential for looking at some of the other roads around parks to potentially do that in North, but it's definitely not as big of a concern in North as it is compared in South.
There's one park issue that I cannot seem to get excited about. I assume it's important. People talk about pesticides all the time. Do you know anything about that? Can you explain that issue to me?
Yeah, and this is one of the things that I'm starting to learn a little bit more about and understanding like pesticide runoff into our waterways. And so trying to reduce the amount of pesticide runoff into our waterways would also help mitigate some of the climate change that we will be facing. So it's something I'm very interested in. It's something that I have started talking with a couple of the people on my team about that know a lot more about it. But it's something that I'm definitely wanting to pursue quite a bit more.
Yeah, it's one of those things where you tune into a park board meeting. Someone is very exercised about pesticides.
Right.
So get on that. Here's an issue I care about. It was a big issue here in the Wedge. Basketball.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll just ask you a simple question. Full court or half court?
So how many people do you have playing?
It can get pretty crowded there at Mueller Park playing basketball.
Sure. So along Dowling, we've got Follow Park, and so whenever I ride through there, there's almost always people playing basketball.
Is
It's
it
a
half
mix.
court?
It's a mixture.
Okay.
Sometimes I'll see half court. Sometimes I'll see full court.
But it's a full court basketball court, right?
Oh, sorry. Yes, it is a full court basketball.
Okay. I just mean we have. So maybe I need to explain the saga because you're probably not up on Wedge history. But Mueller Park was built with a full court in like 1975.
Okay.
And starting around 1980,
Mhm.
people started complaining about crime as it relates to the basketball, or as they thought it related to the basketball court. Loud
Sure.
music, drinking, drug dealing. And, the assertion was this is because of the basketball court. And that kind of died down. And the reason I know this is because I've read a lot of old newspaper articles and like neighborhood meeting minutes from the time. And so we've got a full court for 20 years, and in the late 90s, they succeed in cutting it down because they're redoing the park, and we end up with a half court. This is all before I live here. I moved here in 2012. And so over the past, I don't know, almost 25 years at this point, we've had a half court, and recently went through an engagement process with the parks plan. I think we succeeded. We did succeed in getting a full court put into the plan. That's basically a long way of explaining my interest in the issue.
Sure.
There's a lot of, and you will see this in other cities. It's basically nationwide, people associating crime with basketball.
Right.
And the idea is, well, if we limit it to half court, we're fighting crime because we let full court in. There comes the crime.
Yeah, and I know at Falwell there is a full court. I want to say at Far View there are multiple half courts. They just did some construction on that park. I want to say it was 2019. But I think full court is totally fine.
Good. You meet my my basketball standards.
Well, I mean, so if you get more than 6 people playing, if you're trying to play on a half court, that's not going to fly.
Yeah, exactly. Full court's great. It's fine, and it's versatile. You can switch it up to half court if you want. You got 2 half courts. Every full court makes 2 half courts.
Yep, and I see quite a bit on like a foul since I'm a couple blocks from there that there's often people just utilizing the half courts, and then sometimes when I've ridden past there, you'll see people using the full court.
Well, I'm glad I got you to commit because I tried this with Risa, and she was very well. We have to listen to the community. That was a bad answer.
No, I think you can definitely split that court if you need to.
Yeah. Okay. Do you have any positions on park police?
So this is one of the other things that I'm still learning about. I know the park police is a separate entity from the MPD, but they do belong to the same union. I do know that there are around between 30 and 35 members of the park police. Um, I would like to see the park police transition into something else that's not police oriented. Something that may be akin to like a park ranger or like a park some kind of like assistant program within the park. Um, but at the same time, I understand that if they aren't police, there's certain things that only the MPD then can respond to.
Right.
And so that's what I'm still trying to learn and gather feedback on from individuals. It's one of those things that I don't know enough about the park police yet on how I feel about them.
Yeah, I remember Risa's answer on that was if the park board isn't doing it, then you're basically outsourcing that to MPD. And
Right.
her position was to retain some control over what that looks like.
Yep.
Basically retain the park police.
Yeah, and that's outsourcing to the MPD. I personally feel is a no-go. And so it's just understanding what can we do with the park police to have them fit the needs that we have within the park system.
Okay. Homelessness and encampments. Do you see anything that could have been done better by the park board in addressing that over the last year or so? Anything you would do differently? Some problems that you saw watching that unfold?
For sure. I think the park board was put in a really difficult place. And I see that coming up again potentially soon with this eviction moratorium that's expiring at the end of June. When I was doing some research, I think a week ago, I think the number was around 53,000 homes within the state are potentially facing that at the end of June. So I think I believe that while people are in the park systems, they need to be treated respectfully, and we need to be providing the resources that we can to those individuals. I do like that the park board does have an outreach program now for those. So when they do find members or when they do find people in encampments within parks, they're working with them to help them find shelter. I think it's important that we continue to provide resources. We're providing fresh water, facilities for them to use, the restrooms and things like that as well. I am not sure how I feel about the permitting system that they're currently using. I think it's something that could be refined, but I do like that this outreach team that they have is working with them on that permitting system as well. So there are.
I see your dog walking in and out of the room there.
I do have two dogs. There's a tiny dachshund that's camped back here on the chair.
Oh, yeah.
You might be able to see.
Okay, yeah, I see.
And then an Italian Greyhound that is walking around as well. I'm not sure if he's right behind me.
Yeah. Sorry for interrupting.
No, it's totally fine. I do know that right now the encampments that are within the city I do not believe there are any on parklands, but again, with this expiring at the end of June, that's something that is very likely going to come back up again.
So what are your favorite parks? Like, what parks do you spend time in?
So I have a 6-year-old daughter. So her favorite parks, which turn into my favorite parks, are the ones with playgrounds. So we do spend a lot of time going to the playground at along the West River Parkway. I'm not even sure if it has a name.
Right on the river there?
Yeah, the one on the North Loop.
Okay, I think I know that playground. Yeah. Like it attaches to that trail that will take you like to Lowry Hill, right?
Yes. Yep.
Okay, I know that playground.
Yep. So that one is definitely at the top. Farview, we have been to a number of times now that they reconstructed the playground. Falwell is the closest park and playground to my house. I do like seeing people out on, and this is one of the things that I feel like is a hot button issue in North, is Pokemon Go players.
Mm-hmm.
I personally don't play Pokemon Go, but on once a month they have the Pokemon Go days in which you can catch a special Pokemon.
Once a month? What happens on that one day a month?
So this one day a month they have a special Pokemon that you can only get that day. You can
Okay.
only catch that day. And so Victory Memorial Parkway has a number of Pokemon stops. It's from talking to a friend that used to work in that for that company. That's one of the highest ratio for like distance walked versus the number of times you can catch a Pokemon.
And what is in your platform to address the concerns of Pokemon Go players?
I think it's great. I think it's wonderful that we have people out there enjoying the park, but there's a number. It's one of those issues that people in the western part of Camden over in Victory, they definitely don't like seeing people come out to and walk the parks, and I can't understand for the life of me why.
Yeah, that's I think that's nearly universal. Like you will go to I attended some community advisory committee meetings here in Southwest.
Hmm.
And there's a lot of people who see the park as their backyard. And in the
Right.
same way, like there's people walking through my backyard. I don't like that, except it's a park. Get
Right.
used to it. You bought a house near a park, and now people are using it.
That's yep. That's exactly how I feel about it.
So weird. And unfortunately, we have an engagement system sometimes that favors the concerns of those people.
Right.
Like those are the people at the meetings, the people who live right on the park. And if
Yep.
you go by what the people at the meeting say, you're going to develop a park system that benefits the people who live on the park instead of the people who could be using the park if we made them accessible.
Right. Exactly. And so things like, I enjoy going out to Victory Memorial Parkway and walking, not necessarily on the Pokemon days since I don't play, but understanding that we have all of these visitors to our park system to partake in this, but we don't really have any facilities. We don't have anything else that could help them while they're here. So there's no Victory itself doesn't have any restrooms, the parkway. And so understanding now we've got these individuals here that are happily spending time in our park. So what do we need to help them so that way they aren't littering and they aren't making a mess out of things too.
Right. Shout out to my favorite Pokemon Go player, Ryan Brown from Uptown. I love that guy. Do you know Ryan Brown?
I do not.
Okay.
If you ask him about Victory though, the Victory Parkway, I'm sure he knows if he's.
I don't know. He spends a lot of time in Uptown. He's my Uptown guy. But I'm going to flash a picture of Ryan Brown on the screen since Pokemon Go came up. And you have a dachshund bow tie there, right?
I do.
Yeah.
This is one of the things that I'm trying to get Risa to do is get to wear some more bow ties. So,
what does Risa have to do with your bow ties? Is she going to start wearing bow ties too?
She's picked up a couple.
Okay. Do they have animals on them?
I don't think they do. She needs to up her game.
I kind of associate the bow tie with Tucker Carlson a little bit. He used to wear bow ties.
Yeah, definitely not it's from one of my other previous jobs on Tuesdays. It was trying to get as many people in the office to wear bow ties as we could.
Did it work?
We had about 25 people on the floor, and I would say about 6-7 wore. So I mean, it's a fair number.
Okay. Have you tried that on the streets.mn board?
I have not yet.
Okay. When you get back to in-person meetings, I'm sure you'll take on that job.
I definitely will. I'll see if I can get Bill to wear a bow tie.
Yeah, you think you would?
Ooh, that'll be tough.
What does he usually wear? T-shirts?
Bill wears just like flannel.
Okay, he's casual.
Yeah.
And what else should we talk about? Transportation? How do you get around the city?
I prefer to use. So I do have a car, but I have an electric assist cargo bike,
Okay. Is
and
that new?
so
Is that new in your life, or
it was another 2020 purchase. I bought it in February of 2020.
what are you hauling in your electric assist cargo bike?
Usually my daughter,
Oh, okay. That's
if you count that as hauling, but
that's precious cargo.
yeah.
You
So
take her to the park.
she loves taking that bike everywhere. That's her. So if we um, if we have to go anywhere, that's definitely the preferred method of transportation for us.
Can you fit an animal in that in addition to your daughter?
I probably could. I
But the
don't
dog.
think I don't think my dogs would love that though.
Okay. Yeah.
Uh, I do have a trailer though, so it's frequently a go pick up, place an order online or go pick up groceries or other things with the trailer and the cargo bike. So, which has been pretty handy, especially with the pandemic and not being able to go into grocery stores and just being able to pick up curbside.
Yeah, I don't know if you know this, but I have an Aldi that's like a block from my house, from my apartment, I should say. And that's great. Living a block from a
Have you
grocery
been to
store.
the? So my favorite is North Market.
The what's that? Is that like a
It's a
co-op?
small. No, it's not a co-op. There used to be a Kowalski's in Camden in North Minneapolis. So all the way at the other end of the Victory Parkway, pretty close to the river. It was my sense of time is skewed, but I want to say it's been 3, maybe 4 years now that it's been open. So it's a project alongside of Pillsbury Communities.
Okay. All right. I saw some news about the Northside Cub that opened recently. That looks interesting.
Yeah, that's pretty great. I think the way that they're approaching crime it's something that we need to move beyond and or not move beyond, but spread more throughout the area.
Yeah, they're using I don't know whether to call it a private. It's not really private security. It's not police. And I've noticed it in the Uptown Cub. For the
Mm-hmm.
longest time, there would always be a cop at the Uptown Cub. And a lot of times it was like a cop that I recognized from a news story about like brutality and
Ugh.
the city settling like a lawsuit.
Right.
It's like, okay, I guess he's still a member of the police force and he's doing security at the Uptown Cup. But I've noticed like guys in civilian clothes with walkie talkies stationed where cops used to be
Right.
doing that. And I didn't realize what that was until I saw the story. I forget what channel it was, but about how Cub is not using police anymore, at least some of their stores.
Yeah, and I like the article I read this morning talked about how they're using for when they're catching individuals with shoplifting, and they're actually addressing the root of the problem rather than addressing the shoplifting itself.
Yeah.
So if they're talking to the individuals that understanding why were you shoplifting, is it something that something that you need food because you're hungry, then let's help get that solved. If you're shoplifting
Right.
just for shoplifting, then obviously that's something different. But
Yeah. Yeah, it's an interesting approach. And I think don't they have like a community space there at that store now?
yeah, they do.
Well, I think I have come to the end of my list. This is maybe one of the shorter podcasts I've done. I cut out the co-host, so I don't know. And I feel like I was very efficient with I think we're two very efficient people here.
We try to be.
Is there anything you want to talk about? What have we missed?
So one of the things that I've had on my radar for things that I want to look at from a park board standpoint is the Victory Ice Arena. So I'm not sure if you're familiar with this.
Tell us about it.
So in the Weber Camden neighborhood, there was an ice arena that's there. So it's a part of the Patrick Henry High School. This is something that, like, as a park board, I want to take that space. The space now has not been an ice arena for, I want to say, almost 10 years. Might be a little bit less than that. But they've just been using it for storage. And so this is something I want to, similar to how the ice arena works in Northeast, I want to repurpose this ice arena and use this for we've had interest from like the roller derby team to use the space. We've had interest from people to use it actually as a ice space, and so just turn it into this multi-use area that we have now, where we can rent out, or it would be another potential source of income for the park board and park system.
That's interesting. That's a nice little project.
Yeah, it's something that I think would be really beneficial to the residents of this area, and it's right on the sea line as well, which is my favorite bus line, by the way.
And there might be a little demand for like roller sports, because there's that St. Louis. Wasn't there a place in St. Louis Park that closed recently, like a long time roller rink that everybody loved, but the pandemic hit and they had to close?
Yeah, that roller garden.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's definitely in that use for that as well. So.
And who's the roller derby team that you said would use it?
It's over in Northeast. I believe they call themselves Nerd. It's the Northeast Roller Derby.
Like a league?
I think it's just like a smaller league, but they use the space at the Armory off Broadway in Central and Northeast.
And they need another space?
It would be nice to have a different space.
Okay. Anything else? What other projects you got in mind?
A lot of the things related to UHT, so the Upper Harbor Terminal.
Okay, tell us about that.
So Upper Harbor Terminal, this is this big amphitheater that they want to build along the river in North Minneapolis. So at the Dowling exit, more or less, if you're taking 94. So from on Dowling in the river there. So the idea being a lot of old industrial that's going to be repurposed into an amphitheater. There'll also be some shops and some housing that's built there. And so as a member of the park board, I want to see how we're going to be utilizing that space for parks as well. So just north of there, we've got the North Mississippi Regional Park. That's got a number of trails and facilities that is not really connected at all to anything further south along the river. So we've got the that trail that collects from the West River Parkway. I want to see how we can connect that trail all the way up through to the Upper Harbor Terminal. So the idea of riding your bike from downtown to go see a show at this new amphitheater that's going to be built, or catching a scooter, or not having to drive to get to this location, is fantastic.
Yeah. So I thought of another question that I probably have to ask you, since I asked the other park board candidate that I had on.
Sure.
Can you prove to us you're not a malignant personality? There's a lot of unfortunate personalities on the park board, and it leads to conflict. Lots of conflict on the park board. Lots of grudges. I asked this as a joke. I don't know if Risa got my joke when I asked it. I don't know if you'll get it when so prove to us you're not a malignant personality. Or maybe just answer, how are you going to make the park board function better? Maybe that's a better way to phrase that question.
So when I started contemplating the run for this, as I started started asking friends and colleagues and other things like that, it was just this overwhelmingly, please run. You would be so, like, you would bring such a change to, like, the face of the park board. I always find myself being way more positive than I am negative in conversations and interactions with people. So I think just from how I interact with people just in general, is I find people usually find me easy to get along with, and I'm excited to bring that energy to the park board.
Well, I have found that in talking to you, and I will take that as a pledge to unite the park board. You're pledging that right here today. You're going to unite the park board and bring us all together, right?
I'm going to do my best to do that.
Okay. Is there anything else, Eric?
No, I think this covers it.
Okay. We're gonna cut it off at 40 minutes. Very, very well done, Eric.
Thank you.
I'm very proud of this podcast.
Thanks, John. This was a lot of fun.
Yeah, it was nice to meet you. My guest has been Eric Moran, who is running for Minneapolis Park Board in District 2. which is North Minneapolis and a little bit of the North Loop. And do you want to plug your website?
I do. So my website is ericforparks.org. That's Eric spelled ERIC and for spelled FOR.
Okay. Say goodbye to our audience, Eric.
Thanks for tuning in today.
This is a real thing. Real thing.
None of you have the balls to stop this. Stop this.
I've got plenty of time. I have nothing else going on today.
We're in the Wedge neighborhood right now.